Hi, my name is Matt Marcus, and I'm going to be talking about the Golden State Killer case and how it pertains to knowledge management. In 1974, the terror began with a string of burglaries that took place in Visalia, California. Juvenile detailed that 2 years later, dozens of rapes occurred near Sacramento, and the suspect was dubbed the East Area Rapist. Carol Daly, an investigator on the case, commented, "This was the most heinous rapist I had ever known." In fear, the public reacted by buying massive amounts of guns, dogs, and locks. In 1979, the Sacramento attacks suddenly stopped. Meanwhile, in Southern California, an outbreak of violent killings began to occur. This suspect was dubbed the original Night Stalker, and his string of terror continued until 1986. The final toll of these crimes included 12 killings, over 50 rapes, and over 100 burglaries. While it was not known at the time, these two serial crimes were actually linked, and the suspect became known as the Golden State Killer. This case provides a unique opportunity to examine how codification improved with technology, the benefits and liabilities of using public DNA websites, and the evolution of law enforcement as a learning organization. Knowledge in law enforcement exists in both tacit and explicit forms. Tacit knowledge includes experience and intuition into criminal behavior. Explicit knowledge includes penal codes, physical evidence, fingerprints, lab tests, and DNA. Codification is the recording of evidence in forms of manuals, files, and reports. This is important in law enforcement as it needs to be able to be introduced in court or shared with people. Hislop introduced the conduit model of sharing. This model demonstrates how explicit knowledge is transferred between sender and receiver. In the model, knowledge is viewed as an object that is separate from any person and can be transferred in its entirety between people. The way knowledge has been codified in law enforcement has changed greatly due to technology. At the time of the East Area Rapist crimes, they were just being committed. Crime files were generally stored in an evidence room in the jurisdiction of that crime. The information age ushered in local computers and data that could now be stored electronically. However, sharing the data across jurisdictions was not yet easily done. When the original Night Stalker attacks ended in 1986, the trail to the suspect went cold. This was due to a lack of technology. When the technology evolved, a break came in the case in 2001. DNA from the crime scenes in both Northern and Southern California were matched, indicating both serial crimes were the work of one man. 17 years later, Paul Holes, an investigator on the case, had a novel idea. Public genealogy websites were popular for mapping family trees. How could such a site be used to identify a family tree, the family tree of the Golden State Killer? Holes took DNA taken from a crime scene and submitted it to GED Match. This website uses familial DNA testing, which maps a list of relatives connected to the submitted sample. To Hull's surprise, GED Match identified 10 to 20 distant relatives of the GSK killer. Using census data, newspaper articles, burial records, investigators assembled the current day family tree. Using geographic and age filters, Joseph James D'Angelo was uniquely identified as the GSK suspect. Putting D'Angelo under surveillance, investigators obtained a current DNA sample. The sample was a match to the DNA taken from one of the crime scenes of the GSK. The Golden State Killer was officially identified as James Joseph D'Angelo. Public genealogy websites are fun and a popular way to trace family lineages. The use of this website in the GSK case brings up important questions regarding privacy. As demonstrated, identification of multiple people, even multiple generations, is possible from using familial DNA. The problem with this authorization of one person comprises the privacy of possibly hundreds of people. This raises important questions. Who owns this information and who should have access to this information? To better facilitate information sharing with the FBI developed NDEX. This database links inputs from thousands of local, state, and federal agencies. The data in this is a usable form of for end users. This sharing of the knowledge and providing a system that benefits management and workers as an important step as law enforcement evolves as a learning organization. Micah 6:8 states that he has shown you, O mortal, what is good. And what does the Lord require of you? To act justly and to love with mercy and to walk humbly with your God. Those in law enforcement must be mindful that the information gathered is representative of an individual, a person, and it needs to be handled ethically and with integrity. Presumed innocence is important right in our nation and a way to exercise God's justice and mercy.